I don't have to keep. Yeah, I don't want to keep doing this thing where it's just like upset with what I do, and I do feel like there's it seems like you're in a position now where it's like you can focus on other things because the job that you have allows you to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that people struggle to get to that point to,
Yeah, and
they want to rush through it and get there immediately and just have the 10 steps.
And I wanted to rush through it while I was going through it. I was making shit money. Like, I couldn't live on that.
Well, it's also like I'm sure that what you do now you don't want to do forever.
No.
Exactly.
And it's also noticing it's like, okay, so I got to this place where like I asked for a raise, and last minute I asked for like more money than I was originally going to ask for, like the range, and they gave me the top of my range. And I was like, well, I was never expecting this. So now I'm at a place where I'm like, okay, this is great. Like, I have a different relationship with my job. So that also, I've never been in a place where I've alleviated the stress of the money, right? It's always been like, oh, I don't have money. Oh, I need to work really hard for money. First of all, this job is easy as fuck. And some days it could take up a lot of time, but some days it doesn't take up a lot of time. And I could fuck myself in the head in that and make that an excuse of like, oh, I don't know what my day's going to look like. If I try something today, I won't be able to finish it because work's going to be busy. So then I'll have a really easy day and not do it because I had that in my head.
Yeah.
But I took, like, it has removed that pressure from money. So it's like now I actually get to be like, oh, I get to do this. Like, I get to, this is a decision that I am happy to make. This is something that I have the time, I have the space, I have the resources. It creates a different feeling in your body instead of like, oh, I'm barely making any money here. I should be working in a restaurant at night. And then I need to be figuring out how to create my own content and being happy while I'm doing all of that. Yeah. I've been very blessed to take a little bit of the pressure off. And in that way now create a different relationship with money and create a different relationship with creating and what I can bring to the world and the space. And
how do you manage like not letting money like make you feel like you're okay? So like how do you continue to work on those things? So like maybe you thought money was going to be fulfilled in other ways. Now you have this job. How do you like not say like, okay, well, I don't want to do this forever? How do you motivate yourself to like work on those things even though like financially like you're sitting pretty and things are okay?
I feel like for me, I always get to like,
and the reason I asked that is because like you said lately, like I don't feel necessarily aligned with my content and things like that. So how do you like still put your, because I struggle with it all the time.
Yeah.
Every time you get thrown into that bartending gig and it's like, God, I made $400 last night. Why the fuck would I pick up my camera on my walk this morning?
Well, because my money job doesn't fulfill me the same way that my content does.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel aligned in what I was doing anymore because what I had already put out now, my life wasn't following it anymore because I was in such a stuck place in my relationship. And for me, and maybe that's a problem, but like the relationship, it's who you wake up to every day. Like it shows up and
it's arguably the biggest decision you can
ever make. 100%. Yeah. And the energy around it, and we weren't growing the way that I wanted. I wasn't growing the way that I wanted to grow, and we weren't growing the way together. So it felt like everything that I had set up to this point, I can't keep going because I'm not still living in alignment with it. But the feeling that I get from making money is different than the feeling that I get from like showing up to something like this or doing a meditation or doing a yoga club, like a movement class or something like that. Like it's a different kind of fulfillment, and money isn't, I don't want to say I like want to be very careful about how I talk about it, right? Because I don't want to be like, I really hate money. It's just a vehicle, right? But to me, I could be the richest person in the world, but if I wasn't loving what I was doing and I didn't have a life that I enjoyed, like that money is useless. If I had shit relationships and a bunch of money, I would be miserable. If I had wonderful relationships and I was just getting by, I'd be very happy. Sure, if I was making that like...
Why not have both? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and believing that you can have both. And I think that we're kind of trained that it's just like... And I don't want to... I'm not saying that working hard is bad, but I feel like that like suffering for money
Yes.
is a thing.
Like, it has to be hard.
Well,
has to be
like
work.
I use the word suffer because
Yes.
like by all means it's going to be hard.
Yes.
But like that you like there's like a thing around it that it's just like, no, you gotta like fucking bang your head against
Yes.
the wall
Yes.
and wear your shoes down till
just
like
to get by.
Just exactly.
Not
And-
even to be abundant, just to get the bills paid.
Yeah, and I think that
Because money doesn't grow on trees. That's what we were told as kids.
All of these things are just like, and that's kind of how our parents, they all were in 9-to-5s. Like, I remember growing up and the people who were entrepreneurs, and it was like, oh, must be nice for them. You know, that was the conversation. Like,
Absolutely.
oh, they could go on vacation. They got the big house. They got the this. It must be so nice for them.
Yeah.
And it was like, you almost shamed these people for having those things. Like, that was the conversation around it.
And and that's, I think, like you're focusing on lack.
Yes.
You're focusing on that person has this and I don't have that.
Like we weren't well off, but we were by no means like living like scarcely when I was a kid. But that's what we heard around the house: is money doesn't grow on trees and shit like that.
Yeah. Like, sorry.
No, that was all I was saying.
Like I feel like a lot of times when, especially if you have issues with family too, and those things start to like intertwine, and you see it like tear down relationships, and you see it become like. I don't even recognize you because of the way that you're talking about money. I certainly grew up thinking that it was evil and that it was something that you had to like, and I formed my own belief about that because I watched it affect people in a way that like, and I was like, I don't want to be that. So if I have a lot of it, I'm going to turn into that.
Right.
And then it's going to be even worse if it's like something I love to do, because then it's just going to grow and grow and grow. and then
it'll get so big, and
before you know it, I'll be like, and that's a ridiculous thing to, like,
but it's so ingrained, so deep.
It's very and like I think a lot of people don't realize that like because like obviously it's just like, yeah, I like money, I would like more of it, and it allows me to do things, but it's also like it can be like a neutral thing that is dependent upon how I treat it versus it being like this number or this possession defines what I am as a person.
Like, I grew up and we had money, but the energy was that we didn't have money. Like, looking back now, I'll be like, wow. Like, there was 6 kids, a big house, he built a barn, he had cars, he had, like, there was a lot. Like, where did this come from, but it was always, there's not enough. Like, the energy around money was, we don't have any, we don't have enough.
I think it's because our parents wanted us to work so fucking hard because the generation before them taught them that you have to work so fucking hard because they went through the Depression, and we got stuck with it.
Yeah. And it sucks.
Yeah, because it moves.
Because the abundance
like it
was
moves
there.
through your body, it moves through your family. Like,
Yes.
Well, and it's also like the idea that like the same people who are shaming us about like, oh, they're all, it's like they can't afford to live on their own, they still live with their parents, are at the same time the same people who it wasn't frowned upon to live with your parents till you were
30-something years old.
In the 50s, it was like, oh, yeah, what a family guy. And now it's like, you're a fucking loser.
Yeah, I'm moving back in with my mom. I feel like the biggest loser in the world.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not like it's a belief that was created around like the movie character or the guy who who says to like,
What
back
a
home,
loser.
back home
again
it's
with mom and dad.
It's the Seinfeld thing when George moves back in with his parents.
You couldn't do it yourself, huh?
He says, "My name is George. I live with my parents." But there's an honesty around. Hey, what are you doing? There's an honesty around that is just like, yeah, but like it ain't gonna be like this forever. Like I'm doing what I can right now, and there's like that feeling around like. You guys made this harder for us to fucking make money and figure things out.
Right.
And then now you're looking at us like, why can't you figure it out? Why can't you figure it out? Fucking my house costs $30,000. Why can't you figure it out?
Right.
And like there's ways to be smart about money. I'm not saying that it's not possible to get it.
It used to be you made $100,000 a year, you made great money. Now that's like
depending on where you live, that's barely anything.
Yeah.
Exactly. it's life. And I'm not
Windsor's not a town, and taxes are like $7,000 to $10,000 depending on where
That's
you live.
insane.
Like,
yeah, and like that, and that's a good point. Is that it's just like, what are we all really getting worked up about? You know, we all kind of want the same thing. Like, and I would say that like I think most people in life, if they really looked at it, want what we're talking about. That is like the comfortability, and they just want to just be like, I don't want to have to like wake up and make sure that there's enough money in my bank account to like
we'll
go
just
buy
start
groceries.
with this podcast. Just everybody, we're all just going to collectively, as a world, start just being like, yeah, we all have enough money.
Yep, we're good.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that there's probably a lot of people out there who also like think that way. You know, who are just like, yeah, like the money's out there. Like, but it all depends on where those beliefs came from, and like fighting back against them is fucking hard. Especially when we talked about this on the pre-interview we had, which was that like you're being used to being. I had to suffer through working a long shift at a busy ass restaurant, be there late,
Yep.
do whatever.
If I wasn't in the weeds, I wasn't working hard
And it was like,
enough.
oh, I felt like I earned that.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But it also never felt like
Yes.
enough because it was too much. It was too much on your body. It was too much on whatever, and like you're making.
You going home and you're sleeping and you're dreaming about what you did. I woke up one night and I was like, I forgot the ranch.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I'm like, dude.
Yeah, all the
you
time.
got to double tomorrow. Go to bed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And when do you take yourself? I mean, you talk about how that feels, like to take yourself out of the feeling of being in a restaurant and like working at a different job is like, you guys are so calm.
Yeah.
Like it's so.
The chaos, yeah.
Yeah. It
No, like,
doesn't-
and like I said, I mentioned earlier, like talking about like people who like you miss going back to war, and it's just like I was comfortable there. I was like the guy who could fucking get through it. We all were those people. We all were just like
Confidence.
It's not for everybody.
chaos.
Go
Not
work
for
at Wild
everybody.
Wings where you've got all the fucking help in the world. I got this, and I'm gonna make twice as much money as you.
Right.
And we all felt that way, and there was a pride
and
around
if you
that.
steal my table, I'm gonna punch you in the cooler.
Exactly. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember when you chased down?
Oh God.
There was I remember this so clearly because I was bartending and you were serving, and a lady called you she said that, like you weren't a good server, and then she forgot her credit card, and then you chased her down the road, and I watched you look her in the face and go, "Good server," and walk away.
What a badass.
Yeah, and I was like, damn. I was like, that was fucking
Admirable.
I was like, she got a thing. I ran outside to watch it happen.
Wow.
She was like, you were like, forgot her credit card. Fucking ran, fucking.
I'm gonna get back there.
Fast walking out the door, chase her down.
Now you feel bad, don't you, man?
Yeah, exactly. And but that I just feel like the money thing is it's tough to battle against. It gets so ingrained in you.
Especially on like. Obviously, one day you want this podcast to make money, right?
Yeah.
Like on this journey, it's confronting to feel like I deserve to be profitable.
Yeah,
I'm just sitting here bullshitting, having a conversation, but like,
yeah. Well,
this
no,
can make me
yeah,
money.
and I think that like
here's that just word again.
Yeah, see, but a part of it too is recognizing that like there is so much work that you and I put into this. There was work that you put into this to show up here today. You know, there's a lot that goes into this.
Yeah.
And the must be nice thing would be like, yeah.
Right.
So you come, and I'll let you set up the cameras, and we'll see what we get. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know, because this shit is
and
hard.
then you can edit it
and
too.
then you can
'cause
edit
that
the
takes
episode
a lot
too.
of time.
Yeah, exactly.
And then those stupid clips on Instagram that you guys see we're like, yeah, that takes a lot of time too.
Those stupid clips.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That everybody's like, they have like influencers in the wild, and it's like people like taking their. And it's like, but you can make fun of these people and you could think like, oh, must be nice.
I had to turn 11 minutes worth of conversation into 30 seconds because you don't have an attention span to watch the whole conversation.
11 minutes is worth it, I promise. But like, even 30 seconds is too much.
Yeah.
And
Literally
that takes,
breaking down. A conversation starts here, and 11 minutes later, that's the perfect piece that I need to finish this clip.
Yeah.
So I have to watch all that and edit it down.
Yep.
Yeah. Here's a good example. So like when I made that video for Armando, one of the things that like a few people said to me was, yeah, but like it just made me want to put it down because you had like a fade to black. And I'm like, that's because you're so used to watching 25-second clips on TikTok that every time it goes black, the video's over. The video is 3 minutes long. When you watch a TV show and it goes black, do you turn it off? Do you turn it off? And I'm like, what is happening here? What are we talking about? Like,
I was watching a guy on YouTube, and like I watched it 2 different days, and I had a very different experience on both days. And the first day I was watching it, I was so pissed off because he was talking, and the things he said were so. I was like, oh, I love this content, but he would like write on the whiteboard, and then he would have it like show up in the video, and then he would spray the whiteboard and spend like 35 seconds like cleaning the whiteboard, not saying shit. And I'm like, if this man doesn't get, like, my attention span couldn't handle it. And then the next day, I was like, okay, let me give it I was like, I fucking hate this guy, but I really liked what he had to say. So let me play it again. And I let his pauses, like, be the relaxation. Like, I let it calm down my nervous system instead of being like, I need more information. What else you got to hurry up, faster. You know, like I said, I listened to your first couple podcasts on like 3x speed because like sometimes I'll listen to podcasts. So like I need it faster. And I'm like, what am I doing to myself that like I need all this information to come so quickly and I can't like, he's actually giving you space in what he's saying to like integrate it and to be like, oh, okay, like, take a minute to think about it before I give you something
So what's your
else.
stance on patience?
Oh.
It's a big one for me. I've learned to be
I think it's a big one for everyone in this room, my dog included.
She's chilling.
She's
she
chilling right now.
No problem with patience.
Today, she's fine.
She's a good girl.
Yeah, baby.
This is the part of the episode.
Huh?
That's my girl right there.
You're an ass.
I raised that child.
Of course.
Yeah. This is a
Patience.
good point in the episode for me to tell you guys that I gave her an anti-anxiety pill. So.
Oh, did you?
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Usually she's not this calm during.
Well,
episodes.
it worked.
Oh, it works. Yeah.
Yeah.
It works. Well, actually, most days it works. Some days the cars just drive by too loud.
Oh.
But today, like, but I also think it's like the energy in the room.
Yeah.
That definitely like.
She was like, I don't know when you gave it to her now to know when she was actually chill or when
I gave it to
she
her this
wasn't.
morning.
Oh.
It lasts for like 8 hours.
Oh. I need one of them.
The doggy Xanax. You want one? They give them to people.
Of course they do.
You want one?
Patience. I feel like it's something that I've grown for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also something like with social media and with how information is at us. I think it's something that I also struggle with every day.
Mm-hmm.
I try to be more patient with myself now. And I feel like as I've gotten older, I'm able to give myself more space and not expect it to happen. What?
Her ear on its own is just moving.
My hair's probably tickling it. Are you good?
We can all take lessons from her, huh? Just be a dreamer, you know.
Literally.
Just be a dreamer.
Okay,
bro.
sorry.
No.
It was like
They-
moving
She
dramatically.
does stuff like that all the time, dude.
They are
She's-
like the
she's so sweet.
a teacher.
Yeah, she's like, and like Noah was such a good puppy that he didn't really have to teach me much about patience. There was only a few, but like she is a wild one, and she's been through some trauma. And like sometimes I have to be like, no, that's you sometimes, bro. That's you, you know?
Like
and the
you-
energy that you bring. You know, no, like I mean
Yes.
that like the dog that's anxious, worried, wondering what
Yep,
everybody else
yep,
is doing. I was
that's
like,
your
that's you
energy,
sometimes.
yeah.
It just looks different to you.
Yes.
She just expresses it fully.
That part.
Yeah,
She
exactly.
actually
I'm
lets
just
it
trying to
come
play.
to
I'm
life.
just trying to play it cool sometimes. Yeah, and she's just she like. It's funny that came up while we were talking about patience because that's the biggest teacher for me right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just let her sniff the shit, dude. Just relax. Where do you have to be?
Right.
Where do you have to be, dude? You know, like it's 10 seconds. It's hard. Like it's fucking rough. It's
And
difficult.
on different days, you feel different relationships.
But just
to it.
like I can give her good energy, and I'm the only one who, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah. Like if you're responding to her anxiety with anxiety, it's not going to do
Exactly,
anything.
and then just like accepting responsibility sometimes that like sometimes maybe she's anxious because of you.
of me. Yeah.
Because of you.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, patience, go ahead. Patience.
I think on career, I've had a hard time being patient. Especially this.
Yeah.
This is the hardest thing to have patience of, like, to show up and do work and not see the immediate, like, number of likes, number of comments, number of like, you're like.
I feel like as a gym person though, like you would already like have that in you.
What's so annoying is I think about this all the time. I'm like, I am great. I know I just have to show up every day at the gym. It's an addiction for me. It's kind of always how a healthy addiction, but it's always how I've managed my stress. Like growing up, I never, like being in my house was stressful for me. On the weekend, I was always in a sport, so I was always using movement to release and express, and so I played like soccer, softball, I did all that, and then I was on the track team. And when I wasn't, like on the weekends, I would go for a run and then a bike ride, and just to like stay out the house. So movement has always been an outlet for me. But like career and having the patience in business and it's all the same principles, but I have a very hard time like transferring it over. But I do have that thought process of like, you just have to go to the gym every day and it's fine. And every day doesn't feel great. Like I don't show up the best every day. And some days I'm like putting my shoes on like, I don't want to do this. And you go and you do it, and you never regret a workout. I always say like, you never regret showing up to the gym.
Never.
That was like the biggest switch for me, was like I took care of my physical health like at the same time that I was starting to get into taking care of my mental health. And now it's like, it's all like, I'm so fucking disciplined with making sure I do all of the physical stuff, because I don't ever want to look like I looked again, but like just knowing to take that and put that effort into other things.
Yes.
It is hard to cross the boundaries.
It is. But it's good to have like a thing to come back to that But I also think it's hard like mental health wise too, because it's not so much of a doing. Yeah. Like, I love the doing. I love that I could say I showed up. I love that I could say that, like, I drive my car to the gym. You know what I mean? Like, I do the thing, or I go out and I do the run.
It's a momentum builder.
Yeah. But when it comes to, like, mental health things, sometimes it's just, like, a being.
Well, and it's like, I feel like it's a thing that you can't see. Like, we all want, like, the external. And like not looking inward and being like, no, I feel better. It's not just about the fact that like I got a pump on right now and I look crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like
I feel like
it's like I feel good after I meditate.
For my mental health than my physical health.
Yeah.
Like that's a really great effect, right? But like even if I didn't get that, I would still have to show up, because it makes me feel accomplished. It makes me, and then it's like, do I have to take that away so that I feel accomplished doing something else, right? And then I went through that of like, do I have to stop going to the gym because I feel accomplished once I've gone to the gym, so I have to do something else to feel accomplished? But then I just felt like shit all the time, so I was like, no, that's not the answer.
Yeah, I took all of like, I think it was August. I don't think I ran once in August, maybe twice. And I was like, this is not I got so very like rooted into like, what is your pace and how far are we going? Are we going further than everybody else, and are we going faster than everybody else? And I had to stop to just be like, this isn't about anybody but you. And like, it doesn't matter if you run 10 miles or if you run a mile. It's just the fact that like, hey, you need to get your heart rate up so like you could move. And that's all it comes down to at the end of the day.
And the same thing for the podcast or for any kind of like business kind of stuff. Like, yes, obviously you want to just like, yes, I'd love to run and look better, but that's not the only reason I'm doing it. Yes, I'd love to have a podcast and make more money, but there's so much more that I get from it.
It'll run out this podcast would have been run out of gas if we were just about money.
Of course. Of course.
Been run out of money or been run out of gas, like, you know?
And it's the same thing. Like, I could go to the gym or I could run and expect to lose whatever, or expect to have crazy arms, or whatever your goal is. Yeah. It's not going to happen in a week, a month. Like, you know, I've been on that journey for years. And we all fully walk into the gym and accept that all the time. We're just like, yep, this is just another step in the journey. But you go to hit record on that thing and you're like, this is fucking stupid. And be like, this is going to define my life. Why do I do this? And nobody's listening.
You should listen to the episode that we just put out this week.
Oh yeah.
We were literally both like, I'm so resistant right now. You did?
Oh,
you
did?
Just
hell yeah. All of the clips of that, all of the clips so far that I've made have just been like, the one tomorrow is just a bunch of awkward pauses. Like, I just stitched together the whole episode, and just all of the pauses, us petting the dog, nobody's talking.
Right. Yeah.
But we did it.
And you're like, I'm just feeling so blocked, and I'm just, and yeah.
And it's like you see other people have like these no holds barred kind of approaches to these things, and then you're like, well, why do I feel so like,
because it's not real.
Yeah, why do I feel so like, it's just like why would I feel like I have this parameter around what my clips can look like or what this podcast looks like, but then it's not there. You've created that. You've created that limitation for yourself, or that it has to look this way or that way or whatever. What's the point?
Yeah.
What's the point?
What's the point of it?
Or like you're trying to follow the same, I go back and forth when it comes to creating of like looking at what's trending and looking at what like how this gets it seen more and putting this here and what tags and what this and what that, and then I just want to share authentically. And I think there's a balance of both of those, of like sharing authentically and putting it together in a way that catches people's attention, right? And
not doing it, and like being aware within yourself to be like, I know that I have to get this. I forget the word that they use for it. That like the hook.
Yes.
The hook in the first 5 seconds.
Yes.
But it's like, but that doesn't mean that it has to define the content that I do. And that like everything has to be like, what audio is trending this morning? Let me make a,
Yeah. And it's also
people
like,
lose touch with that so easily because it's like,
easily.
you can wake up and
You can take something very authentic and make it super unauthentic by doing that too.
Yes.
And like, listen, I'm all out for getting your bag and like
Of course.
using that TikTok audio that is, for your, like,
Right.
I get that. But I don't think you're just going to get any of the fulfillment out of what this brings. Like, and I always like, I tell people like with your business or whatever, like, bring the personal thing that you feel like is what's special about you, even though maybe like right now you have a weird view about it. Like, that's what people want.
Yeah.
And they want to see like, and also it's just like, why would you want the audience of the people who are super judgmental of you?
Right.
And that's okay. Like, why?
And it's okay to like slowly grow your audience.
Yeah.
For people to like get to know you. For it to not be this like quick clickbaity all the time, like needs to be trending. Like I think it's also like building an audience and building a community.
Yeah. I mean, I think for kind of what we do, it's kind of hopefully the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or unless you want to go dive deeper into that.
I feel like the words just mean something different.
Yes, yeah. Absolutely.
A community is people who kind of feel like welcomed in your environment. An audience is kind of somebody who just like watches.
Yeah. Well, okay, so then ideally
Like-
you'd want it to be both, but it's not necessarily the case.
Right.
It's very similar to like what Mike has done with like the
Yeah.
guy that like very much influenced me. Mike is like he's an independent artist, but he's grown an entire community of fans that like the content, the music, everything is all very aligned, and it's only going to align with a certain amount of people. But he speaks about it all the time on their podcast. Is that like you don't want 50 million people following you. You want 5,000 people that really give a fuck.
Yes.
That you can like really help and like. Everybody can communicate with each other and find things, because when you start to make the number too large, division is always going to happen because nobody has the same beliefs as around everything. But like, if you can keep the community small, tight knit, so everybody can help each other and they can grow off of it, like that's what you're pushing for.
And you could stay authentic.
Yeah.
I don't feel like we were ever meant to have the eyes of that many people. Like, I feel like my psyche can't handle that either, of like so many people's judgments and opinions. And
I don't think anybody can handle that. I think it's just the people that are like at that level, like it's just like one of those things where you just become
You become a real person.
This doesn't. It doesn't affect them.
Yeah, I mean,
that level.
1 million people is insane. To me, like 100,000.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of nuts. And like, I mean, maybe that's just thinking with limitations, but it's also just
then you got that that rabbit hole
and it's
too,
just
right?
like, well, but like I'd take if 500,000 people love me, I'd love that too. You know what I mean? Like I don't know, like, and just being okay with like it goes where it goes, and that and I think like just not creating a correlation between the number and the self-worth. The self-worth for yourself, and that being like, oh, maybe I got paid half as much for this show or to do this thing or whatever, but like I still enjoyed it.
You guys listen to Russ at all?
Yeah, I do.
And how like his new music that come out, like his Santiago album?
Yes.
And
I love his music, but I'm an even bigger fan of just who he is as a person.
that's what I'm saying.
Well, that's why I like Mike.
Yeah.
That's exactly
Right.
why.
Yeah, he's a
that
great
resonates
example
with
of
me.
somebody who like built that and then got a lot bigger. I think off of the fact
Right.
that like
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
and like I don't know, we're not going to sit here and pretend to know what it's like to have 2 million people follow you.
No.
And have people screaming your name. But,
I just think it's so interesting, like, to watch people come out and be more authentic about, like, his music now. Like, the stuff he's putting out now just feels like he's speaking in his music about, like, this stuff.
I love Santiago because is it still up
The
there?
Alchemist is on
Alchemist?
the other side of
love.
the picture frame.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all got that book. You've read that, right?
Of course. Of course.
When you
Yeah.
were saying before about like having to go back and just to get back to where you were, I was just like, yeah, we all read The Alchemist.
It's a great book. Yeah.
Yeah,
Fantastic. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
I think it's nice to see it more in the mainstream, too.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate
somebody who's
that.
big, who has those
Yeah.
millions of followers.
That was the biggest thing with Mike about getting me sober, because his podcast, from when he started, he was Mike Stud, and they were like the fratty college music, and then he went away and like rebranded and came back, and it's just more of the spirituality stuff, but he had athletes because of the party days. He had connections, so like he
Right.
would have these athletes on, but then when he was interviewing them, he's not talking about baseball or golf or partying or hanging out with girls. What's your mental state like?
Right.
And like listening to that, and then the big one that he had was Evan Britton, who used to be the co-host of Hot Boxing with Mike Tyson.
Okay.
And he was in the NFL, and he's the fucking gladiator, but now he's like a yogi. And like just seeing him, like people like that have that conversation was what triggered this in me, like, and making the change. So like it's super important for that stuff to be in the mainstream.
Yeah.
Because how many other people struggle with addiction or whatever, self-doubt, anything, and they're afraid
I mean,
because there's
I
no
agree,
voice that they listen to that's popular enough to be like, okay, I can do this too.
And also kind of naming the things that they struggle with, not just like, oh, I have this perfect. Like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm like, you have this idea of like, they got 2 million followers, or
Yeah.
they're a professional baseball player, like, must be nice, you
Yeah.
know? Like, you have this idea of what their life is, and then when you really get to look into what it took to get there,
Yeah.
I think giving those people a voice of like, it really, I didn't just wake up one day like this. Like, it took, just like
Yeah.
it's taking you to sit and have the shitty things, like, it took me all the same.
Yeah.
And like, you're on your way there. Just
Yeah.
have some patience
Yeah.
and don't shame yourself.
I feel like a big part of what like I started kind of like seeking out content like that that was like and like numbers isn't important, but like, you know, the famous writer talking about how every day I wake up and I feel like I'm not a good writer, or I struggle to get the pages in, or the mega athlete who's like, yeah, it was hard for me to go on a 1 mile run today, or like, yeah, I'm struggling with the fact
Seeing
that like
the real life part of it.
these fucking people pay money every day to come watch me play or whatever it is. I'm struggling. That's hard.
Yeah.
And then it's hard for me to go home and be a dad to my kids or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like, when I stopped looking for like content that was like, oh, this is how well this person is doing, this is how you get there, versus being like, dude, I'm a super successful athlete, writer, creator.
We need more Gary V's.
Right. Like, what is the journey like?
Yeah.
Like, I want to see the journey.
Yeah.
And I also feel like it's what you listen to and it's what you watch.
Yeah.
Like, I even just recently started changing, like, the music and what
Start
they're
listening to Christian
talking.
music, Forrest Frank.
No, not. I guess it would be like spiritual music.
Yeah,
You know?
you know,
Kind of like Mike and like people like that.
That has a
who are, like,
message or purpose
yeah,
or whatever.
Yeah. I think his name's like, it's Face Soul or something. And I like hear this and I'm like, oh, this is great. And then I look how many people actually like listen to him a month,
Yeah.
because like Spotify shows you that. And I'm like, oh, this guy's like, you know, but what he's talking about is so important. And now there's like a whole playlist of like, if I just want to listen to like, not Cardi B talking about, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
You know, there's a time and place for everything.
But you just want to be
Still
clear that you like
listen to
that. You
Scissor,
like that. You want to be clear that you enjoy that.
I don't know.
She was always
necessarily.
SZA to me.
Accurate.
Yeah,
Spot on.
it feels like that. It feels like that.
Your feeling is right.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I feel like the narrative that you have playing for you, not only what you're saying to yourself, but like what's the media that
Yeah.
Yeah.
People who make you
Welcome.
feel like this stuff is possible.
You
know?
could be going on a workout or a run and like
you don't have to be listening to hype music to fucking do it. You can be listening to Joe Dispenza and Jay Shetty while you're running. Like,
Those are my slower runs. Though.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it makes sense. I trek on one of those ones. Rich Roll podcast,
100%.
like, I'll have my slowest pace because, like, at some point I stop, like, I don't stop running, like, I just get into the point where I'm like, I'm really enjoying this. Like, what am I in a rush to? Let me finish it. Like, the podcast is an hour and 30 minutes. What's an hour and 30-minute run going to do for me? It's only going to make me better. Let me listen to this whole fucking thing.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Rather than 4-minute songs for Meek Mill trying to pump you up
Right.
to, like, go to the club.
But
Like,
it's so interesting, like, how different that could make you feel. And if you don't pay attention to that, then you're just, like, unconsciously playing the same song all the time. Like, I would just, you know, you have your workout playlist and you listen to the same playlist every time you go to the gym. So you're creating the same feelings every time you go to the gym. Instead of, like, switching up what you're listening to and being like, oh, can I feel... Like, instead of feeling, like, angry, like, listening to angry rap at the gym, like, can I listen to, like, some uplifting shit? And when I leave, like, does it change how I even show up to my workout?
Do you breathe more while I'm working out? Because that's a big thing for me. Anytime I, like, find my breath while I'm working out, I'm like, oh, I'm about to fucking crush this.
Right.
Yeah, that's one of the things I do. Like, figuring out those little hacks that help you get there are insane. And, like, something that I've done, like, I feel like my approach to going to the gym changed when I stopped, like, thinking about going to the gym. And I was like, I'm getting ready. And I just started listening to the podcast that I was going to listen to as I got ready. Walked out the door with it, listened to it in the car. And then by the time you're listening to the thing, you're there and you're doing the thing that you said was, like, so hard.
Instead of thinking about it.
And you realize that the hard thing was not you curling the bar.
It was actually...
It was you getting in the car, getting out the house, getting past that mindset of...
Those walls that you face every day.
Yeah, exactly.
And you face them there, and then you'll face them in the next place in the day, and the next place in the day, and if you, like, already hit this
What's
wall...
your first wall every day? What's the first wall you hit every day?
Yeah.
Mine is getting in the cold shower. I do it every single day, and I'm always going to do it, and I'm never not going to do it, but I'm like... Every morning, I'm like, fuck, this sucks. Like...
It's cold, especially when it's cold out.
I'm like, I don't want to tell Siri to start the timer, like, but I'll sit there and, like, once you do it, like, everything kind of, the first is getting in the shower, the second is being like, okay, we're going to make it through 10 seconds, and then 30 seconds, and then after the first minute, you're good. You know? What's the first
It's
wall
gonna
that
sound
you
like
face?
I'm clinically depressed, but I love sleeping.
Yeah.
Like, I hate
Oh,
getting
yeah,
out
you've
of
always
bed.
been like that. You
Always.
always have been like that. Yep.
Always. I love sleeping.
Raven walking in the river with her bag, like, flinging that shit, like... yeah, my alarm didn't go on. I remember the big-ass bag.
Always.
Swinging the big-ass bag into River Grill.
Always late, like a guaranteed 10
I mean,
minutes.
we all were always late.
But getting, like,
I'd be like, well, you don't need me till 4. I'm not coming in.
I was on my way here. I was like, oh, I said I'd be there at 11. I'm 11:15. I'm right on time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Everybody's like, that's late, and I'm like, they're like, oh, being on time is 5
I used to
minutes
argue
late.
that my position at the restaurant wasn't important enough for me to be there at the time that we opened.
You would show up at like the
All
most
the time.
ridiculous time.
All the time. We'd be like, yeah, me and Steve both got to go to Restaurant Depot. You'll be fine, right?
Right? You won't see them for.
You'll be fine, right? I'll never
When
forget.
the doors open is when these guys are again.
I will never forget that when you called me and Steve and you were like, what the fuck?
Yo, I remember
I don't
that.
know how to bartend.
Yes, I remember that.
There were 3 of us working and 2 of us left so we could get high. So we could get high and get like 2 things.
And it was a Sunday.
We got lamb. We got lamb.
Yes.
We got rack of
It
lamb.
was Sunday brunch, wasn't it? And it was.
And then we'll be here till noon, and it was like 10:30, 11 o'clock, and they're all done. And she's just like, I don't know how to garnish a fucking Bloody Mary. You 2 better get here now. The only 2 people who can bartend left.
The
Like, I can't
voicemail.
believe-
I remember the voicemail because we let it ring. I remember watching it come up on your center console.
Oh,
This is when you still had the Volkswagen,
Volkswagen,
right?
yeah.
That's so
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah.
Ignored the phone call and
Oh,
then listened to the
no.
voicemail.
And probably laughed at me.
Yeah, dude,
Like,
absolutely.
jeez, this
Yeah.
is kind of scary.
Yeah.
I think that's changed a lot in me too, like that reactivity, that like I won't say always because I still get very angry, but that anger and that like intensity of when somebody pisses me off, like,
Yeah,
how the fuck you guys
absolutely,
leave me
yeah.
again like this,
Yeah.
you know? Like, I have a little more control over it than I used to. I'm not like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
punching cinches.
So your first wall of the day is getting out of bed?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then like I started running again, so I do like a mile or 2 miles in the morning, getting my shoes on. Whether it's sometimes it's to go to the gym, and now it's to go run. That's some days I just find myself like walking around the house extra long to be like, you're just avoiding leaving, like just get out of the damn house.
I'll drive. My routine is like when I get back from walking Lola, I take her leash off, I go inside, I go to the bathroom real quick so I don't have to pee when I'm running, and I give her water. And I'll find myself, I come into the garage and I'm like, now I'll go upstairs and get my water bottle, and I'll come downstairs and I'll be like, now I'll go get my headphones, and I'm like, you don't even listen to music when you run. Like, I do.
Maybe in case I want them.
I'm just doing things to pace around the
That's
house
it.
so I don't go, and then I'm like, just fucking go. Once I hit the Whoop app and it starts like my activity, because it gives you 3 seconds, and I'm like, oh, I gotta be running by the time this starts, otherwise my pace is gonna be fucked up.
Right. So I feel like that is a big one too. Like just getting started. I do some kind of physical activity in the morning.
Yeah.
Is that an order ring?
It's not. It's
I thought it was. Okay. It looked like the order ring.
It's a $35 Amazon Aura ring.
Oh, sick.
Yeah.
The data's good though?
I've only had it for a couple days. I think so. I don't
Should've
have
got a
anything.
Whoop. We could have got you a discount.
Oh, well, I thought about you
Well,
guys,
good thing
too.
you only spent $35 on
That's
that.
it, yeah. I like want something that I'm gonna wear on a regular basis, and
Desiree loves her R ring. I've been trying. She doesn't. I don't think it gives the data that Whoop gives,
you don't think so?
but like
Whoop is insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Aura
It's a
is
big part of
definitely
both of our routines.
is definitely the closest thing to it. But like I've gone through her app and stuff, and I just don't find that it doesn't have all of the capabilities of the Whoop. The only thing that she's like, I'll never get a Whoop because I like don't want to wear something on my wrist. She wears rings all the time, so it's like
That's
so
the
it's
thing.
very
women don't-
female
it doesn't
friendly.
Seem to,
That's the
Dudes
thing.
seem to have no problem.
Yeah, I didn't want to get a watch because I think they're ugly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I told her, I was like, I'll get you the one that goes on your clothes, and she's like, no.
The Whoop-
Yeah, I feel like I
the Whoop,
used
though,
to
you can
have
get
a
nice
bracelet.
colors though and stuff though. It's nice.
Yeah, I just hate the watches.
Yeah.
I'm like not a
Oh
watch
yeah, you're just
wearer,
not. Yeah.
you know, I just
Yeah, I get it.
and I
And like,
wear
I wouldn't want to
rings.
put it in my. I guess like, I mean, like, I guess for some
Like-
people it works to put it in your clothes though.
And if
Well,
it's,
it's just a sensor, but like
Yeah.
I wouldn't.
but if it's something,
Then you gotta get like
extra-
10 different pairs of fucking
Whoop
jogging
clothes,
shoes.
yeah,
Yeah,
that are
that's a
mad
lot.
expensive.
I understand that. Yeah, but for me, like, I just don't even notice that I wear this thing.
Like that would be to me. That would be like
Chunky, I don't know.
I would just feel like I want the information, but I don't want
Yeah.
the look of it, and so this is like a very happy medium.
You should just use it in the wintertime and get long sleeves.
Maybe we'll gift you one for
Okay.
Christmas. We'll send you a nice looking one to Florida.
Right.
When it gets cold at night, like 65 degrees, you can
Yeah.
wear long sleeves.
Yeah, but and I love the sleep thing. I like all of
Yeah.
that.
Mhm.
But how do you know it's accurate? I guess that's my question.
So I mean, like I've been wearing mine for 5 years.
Oh,
So
wow.
like I definitely took off like because I got it in 2020, and I definitely didn't start wearing it again until like I wore it for maybe a couple months and then took it off for about 2 years. But I've definitely been wearing it every day consistently since before I got sober. So like the information on there, just like I just got my yearly like recap of everything, so it shows you year to year data. Like I mean, as what it shows me and the way that my training's gone, I can see that my zone 4, like your heart rate, like when you're almost at max, and my zone 2 where you're supposed to train for endurance, like I can see where I can definitely have where I've made improvements, where there's still more room to be improved. The sleep thing, it gets me with all the time, because my sleep is like very much try to be consistent with my bedtime and my wake time, but like
In between
I
is the
see,
shit show.
yeah,
Can be.
I see all the data from it, and like it makes sense. If you kind of feel.
Usually you feel the way that the thing is telling you that you feel.
Yeah.
Like I usually like when I know that like I had like a good night's sleep, I know I'm gonna wake up green.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Sometimes it's a little off, but then other times like it's not like a perfect Bible, because it's just like
Yeah.
you know like
Well, like,
your
when
feelings and your emotions and stuff.
When my
like that.
HRV is really high, like, and I go for a long run, like, I can tell, like, my HR, like, I'm definitely ready to take on the strain, and I feel better for it. There's days where, like, I'll try and push it through a workout, like, when my resting heart rate is higher than it normally is, my HRV is lower than it normally is, and I'm like, okay, I do feel this. And I don't even know if that's because it's just psychological, because I looked at my Whoop information for the morning, and it's like, you didn't really sleep that great. So
that could be true too. It could be like, it could assist you and then it could hold you back too.
for me, it's more about the accountability, because I can track all my routines and my habits in it, and I can input my data every day. So it's just like taking that time to be like, because it has the journal feature is huge for me. Like, it asks you like stuff about your prior day, and like I'll go through and I'll fill it out, and it'll be like, okay, did I take the time to journal? Did I take the time to meditate? Like, how long did I meditate? How long did I stretch? Like, did I take these supplements? Stuff like that. We don't need to go on a tangent about what
a great ad for what.
Yeah. We just threw that in there naturally. We've been talking about it.
Use
That's what I'm saying. You guys
Use
are
our
doing so
code.
good with this.
Get your first month free. It's cheaper than ever right now.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. I missed the renewal date. And I'm an affiliate, for God's sake. But you can still get that good deal, I believe.
I believe.
Yeah, I believe.
Depending on when this comes out.
Yeah, true, good point. Yep,
Yes.
good point,
Yeah,
good point,
yeah,
good
yeah.
point.
The Black Friday sale is definitely long gone by the time this comes
Definitely.
out.
Yeah, so since we're talking about like routines, sleep, things like that, you mentioned that you do like a nighttime routine. Breath work, you said, was a part of it. What's kind of your wind down to set yourself up for success there?
I love to smoke real weed.
We're fans of that.
I like to grab my laptop and just kind of like stream of consciousness journal, like whatever is kind of going on. And
Interesting that you should journal on the laptop.
Yeah, it's something I just changed, and I actually love it.
Interesting.
I have like iPad.
But you
that
would recommend journaling. These journals.
100%, Steve.
These are great journals to journal
You know, I
in.
think there's
Rayvin Rey
something-
laptops coming soon.
I do think there's something about like a pen and paper.
For sure.
But sometimes I'm thinking faster than I'm speaking.
Yes. Okay.
Or than I can write, you know? Like
My hand be getting tired too.
I
sometimes.
do have issues with that sometimes, where like I'll see that I'm like some words I don't even finish.
You
Sometimes.
can only write so fast.
Yeah.
True.
And so that's just been something that is kind of like it's been easier. So I just sit outside and make sure I do that every day. And then maybe some movement, like I'll roll out my mat and just have some kind of, not necessarily like a class structure, but like whatever feels good in my body, like feel my legs, feel my arms, do all that. And then I give myself a foot rub at the end of the day.
Really?
Yeah, that's like been my newest thing of like, it sounds so silly, but I've like ending a relationship and thinking about what I'd prefer instead. Giving that undivided time and attention at the end of your day of like, I make sure I'm very present and be with myself in that way, because like who wouldn't want that with a partner? Instead of just like mindlessly going to bed and just like, oh, good night, like, you know, like giving yourself that intentional time with yourself. And,
Buying yourself flowers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a callback to Jose. Go watch that episode. 13?
I was talking about Miley Cyrus, bro.
But didn't he say like he said something in that episode that was like give men their flowers?
Yeah. That wasn't that episode.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. I'm just looking for marketing opportunities.
But yeah, I think that's something that sounds so silly, but it's giving yourself the love that you want from other people.
Mm. How do you feel about like kind of like the statement that is how do I word this? I feel like a lot of people have the outlook on like a relationship that is like you can kind of just be who you want to be and show up however you show up, and that like the person is just kind of supposed to love you the way that they're supposed to, right? Like that's certainly something that exists.
Of course.
So what is your take on like showing up as the person that you want to be in a relationship so that kind of like you feel like you're putting your energy into something else? So like how like I guess like I feel like what I'm getting at is that like a lot of people say the thing that it's just like if he wanted to he would. So how do you like weigh things like that? Because I feel like that statement is not necessarily, because it's kind of like losing accountability, and I feel like a lot of people don't take that and they say that like I want to love you the way that you are, but like if you're continuously, so what is your kind of stance on
I
that?
think there's like a balance of the integrity of who somebody is and their habits, lifestyles, character, that has to kind of click and align with what you want for your day-to-day. And then as far as like that, there's a balance between communication and what someone will naturally do, like without you, just because that's in their nature. Mm-hmm. Some people they think about those things, right? They think about going the extra mile of doing the thoughtful thing. Other people don't really value that. And I think, at least for me, I want to more honestly look at how people show up without me telling them what I need, and without hoping for the potential of what it could be, and accepting them for who they are instead of being like, oh, well, then I can tell them that I like A, B, and C, right? Or like, oh, I'd like for you to... But you also can't expect somebody to always read your mind. So I think you have to like who the person is exactly how they are, and be okay and proud of them and respect them exactly how they show up. And then their work ethic, their how they view relationships, what they want in the relationship. I think those are all really important things to like ask and know beforehand. And then also communicate like what you actually need. Like maybe they're loving you in a way that you can tell, because I feel like I know enough now at this point where I could tell like, you're just loving me the way that you love, like, or that you would receive love. But maybe you don't think about it in the way that like,
it could be different.
Yeah, like for me, you do A, B, and C, and to you that says that you love me, but to me that doesn't feel like you love me. That just feels like...
It's kind of like how somebody doing like an act of service for somebody, for some people that's going to feel like the most amazing thing in the world, and then another person that's going to feel like that did nothing for me. Or like physical touch is like the one that's like some people love, and then other people are not like that, and that can create rifts for sure.
And this
if you're not communicating it,
right? And this could be kind of controversial, but like
let's go. Now we're getting to the nitty gritty. Let's go
on this journey of like putting this out. Like if you're dating someone and they have zero interest in either giving a listen or giving you some feedback, or like like if you just came home one day and was like, oh, I watched your episode from like so and so, or I listened to your meditation, or like that's important. Like their action being behind the support is very important. Not just saying, oh, I support you, and them actually showing up and doing supportive things. I feel like it is an attraction point. Obviously, this was a sore point in my relationship.
No, I mean, we're talking vulnerably. Like, you know what I mean? This is, what you want in a relationship is like, I feel like a lot of times we look at it as like, oh, it's a joke or it's a fantasy. It's just like, no, this is like what I take seriously.
I think as somebody who's in a relationship like that now, I think it's just so important, because I never would have thought that like by communicating and telling Desiree my needs and understanding hers, like would I ever be able to be in a relationship that's like this fulfilling? Because it's really, really nice. Like when you can have, like we had a hard conversation this morning. Emotions have just been a little bit high lately, but like we can talk. Talk through it, and like I've never had someone that I can sit down and be like, I'm feeling this way, and like I don't need you to change anything about what you're doing. I just need you to be aware of it, so and like it's nice to have those conversations with somebody that like. And like you said, like seeing, like I will come home sometimes and she'll be listening to the podcast. So it is like nice to see those things, because like the relationship I was in before, like it was all cool that we were doing this, but nobody gave a fuck. Like you know what I mean?
Yeah. And it feels different. Like you feel seen. You feel like important to the person.
Absolutely.
And I think it also creates that deeper connection with the two of you of like. What's important to you and what's vulnerable to you. And I believe
I believe in you. Like I know a lot of people think that, starting a podcast is a silly idea, but I support you. I know what you're doing, and I know I understand.
And I'm willing to take the time to listen. And then maybe give you feedback, or maybe just say, hey, that was great. Or like something.
It's nice. It's a nice feeling for sure. When somebody's like, hey, I watched your episode, or like my dad called me the other day and was like, so nice. I'm doing a marathon of your episode. And I was like, hell yeah, dude. Like, yeah, exactly. And that means a lot. And it's just like, even like the littlest bit, because I know that him popping on YouTube and watching us is a lot more difficult than it is for the three of us.
Right.
I can get there in about 10 seconds.
We walked him through subscribing.
We walked him through subscribing.
Wow.
Shout out to my dad for
Shout
subscribing.
out.
Yeah,
The Don.
Yeah, the Don himself. But yeah, that stuff matters.
Yeah.
I agree for sure.
Mm-hmm.
How else do you think are good ways that people can like support each other?
Like showing
Huh?
up. Other than showing up. What do you mean? Like in a relationship? What are we talking about?
No, but like you specifically mentioned like like being supportive of like maybe the creative pursuits of somebody or things like that. I think like maybe just more in like more simple practical ways.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe if somebody doesn't have like a creative thing that you can pursue, like what are just like if you're trying to build something a little bit more meaningful, like.
I think
you mentioned like the like eye to eye.
Yeah.
Like that's.
Mm-hmm. I think even breathing together.
Don't look at me for too long, bro.
But then it's like, oh, no,
Yeah,
no,
oh, damn, bro.
And now I'm looking
Damn,
at
bro, these lights are.
like overthink something so simple.
These lights are bright, dude. Fuck, man.
I can't.
God damn, dude. Fucking somebody turn the heat on here. Oh fuck. Yeah, no, but like I'm just curious because I feel like it helps.
It's such a special thing to give somebody space, like to express whatever is going on, and like not need to say something, not need to give them advice. Sometimes people just need like this
Wade
is
Dyer all the time. It's like just don't. If you bite your tongue, the bite your tongue and zip your lips method.
It's very hard.
Yeah, it's super hard. I try all the time, but it's very hard.
You're very good at it, actually.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think that's a good one too.
I feel like I'm not always very good at that. As a guy, like what's something important? I mean, you're in a healthy relationship. Right?
Yeah, first time.
Yeah.
First time.
Who would have thought that? Sitting here and
Right? He's the one, right? Me and Rayvin are like, God, dude.
God,
You guys should have been addicted to coke in 2019.
Damn, it was 2017 for me. Fuck.
The turnaround's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, what do you think? Something like moving forward.
So for me, like, I think that now, like building upon what you said about like somebody supporting is that like I feel like I look way more at character and like what is your purpose, what is your pursuit, because if it's just flowing through me or it's flowing through something that's not that meaningful, I know that that's not going to work for me. And I feel like for a long time it was always just like, oh my God, love me, you know. But for now, like I feel like I'm in a space now where I'm like learning my worth. So it's like I don't look at how pretty you are or like what your job is or something like that, but like what matters to you, you know, like what is important, and just like also are you okay with me not being around all the time to pursue those things that like I'm gonna be a better partner if you give me the space to pursue the podcast, your own business. Maybe it's just like alone time. I think that the communication of that is so important when you're just like, I don't really feel like this right now. This thing's on my mind, blah, blah, blah. Obviously it's cliche to be like talking about like what, but I do feel like it's hard to explain, but I feel like sometimes I feel like when you think about the society standard of it, it's like some women think that guys don't want that. They don't. I don't want you to talk about your feelings. I don't want you to like open up. I don't want you to communicate to me. And just like that's all I'm looking for. I just want you to tell me what's going on, what's happening. Like how can I show up better for you? Because I can only do it to a certain.
Yeah, because
extent.
most guys are like, oh, here we go.
Yeah, but the nagging and the whatever, blah blah blah. And it's just like I'm trying to show up. This matters to me, but it has to matter on a level above just like you're the boyfriend, I'm the girlfriend. Right. You cook, whatever.
What do you think, like, creates that person shows up for you? That, like, that's the person you choose? Because I feel like I see a pattern of, like, what I choose, right? Of, like, somebody...
It certainly hasn't necessarily been what I choose either, yeah.
Right, so, like, you
probably
choose...
none of us, like, you know...
Yeah, you choose the person, or who you, like, look back at is... You know who you show up as and what you want, but who... I guess it's really just a pattern of what you knew, right? As somebody who, in your family system or whatever you've seen as far as relationships, it kind of goes back to that shame of like of family that here I am doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm. How could I go through this and then do it to somebody else?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. How could I lose my temper when somebody else losing their temper hurt me so much before?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think it's interesting that it's so hard to get to that healthy place, right? To get to that place of like, oh, I actually found myself.
And maybe it's like of like, what will it actually, it'll be something I've never experienced before to have somebody who shows up in a way that meets me like so exactly where I am and like fills me just the way like we're filling each other.
It's definitely scary because like even to get to where me and her are now, I feel like there was things that like I knew if I wanted this relationship to be what it could potentially be, like I was going to have to be open and have conversations, and then you sit on the cusp of having that conversation and you're like, is this even worth it? Like, should I do this? Or because it's so scary, like maybe we just let things go on the way they've been going, but like you actually have that conversation and then it just changes everything.
If they're receptive. If they're not receptive.
Yes, that's true too.
I just feel like kind of the road I've been down and how I treat myself, I can't not be in a relationship where it's like, all right, this is off. What are we doing? I just can't, because it's like I am that person who it will eat away at me. And there's a difference between like avoiding things and being like, hey, I just like needed like some time to think this through, and being like mature and like about the fact that like, hey, like I'm not feeling like my best self. Like I'm not, I'm really focused on this thing, and just like I feel like a lack of talking on those things creates a negative background that will come to the forefront eventually.
Because you can feel the energy that's
because it's like, oh, when we're together, it's great. But then it's just like, then you realize that like, oh, I'm not being honest about this. I'm not being honest about that. Like, what are you not telling me? Oh, and it can, and like it's kind of like what you said, which is that just like, how do you get to a place where it's just like, I know that like, I've told you, and that like, if you still love me for this, then I'm cool. You know what I mean? Versus being like, I'm going to hang on to this and hide who I am so that you won't leave.
And I guess that comes back to like having an acceptance of yourself, that like, I don't feel like I have to hide this from anybody. Like I accept myself, that this is how I'm showing up and this is how I'm feeling and this is who I am.
Yeah.
And also to how you treat yourself, which is stupid, but the little foot rub, like I want somebody that's willing to like put that time into me, that's willing to take the intentionality instead of always being like scrolling on your phone, or like something's more important than taking care of the relationship, but like giving that to myself.
And also that like, if you're always like, if you're in a relationship where you're both kind of like going after something and you don't have days at a time to like, those little pockets of time become very important, especially when somebody communicates to you and says, hey, this is important.
Right.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
But if they don't like meet you there with like, this is important and we need to make intentional time this way, and they don't show up and you're both doing, I think that's where you get like, whether it's a friendship, whether it's romantic, whatever it is, that's where you get dissolving of that relationship.
Yeah. Interesting. Wow. So what are you doing now to break the pattern?
I'm spending time myself.
There you go. Fantastic. Same, dude. Gang.
Yeah. Anybody who slides in the G-Mens, I come see you in November 2025. Where none of us. I think it's a joke, but it's like for real. I think I just need like intentional time of nothing. And giving myself what I seek from relationships and connections, and just cutting that off completely and giving it to myself.
Yeah.
And hopefully it won't be like 5 years, but we'll see.
Yeah, right. You just kind of have to accept what it is. Like, but if you keep going on the path that you're on, like, like things start matching up. And
and like I did do that a little bit. Like when I moved to Florida, like obviously I knew nobody. So I really started over. But I feel like I'm going into it this time with a different more experiences, more self-awareness, more self-compassion, which I think will be the biggest change.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully I'll be like Steve in a year and a half.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. No, yeah, and I think that like that's something that I've always struggled with, like being, especially when you're single, like comparing yourself to like how happy it seems for other people. You know, we've all been there.
Of course.
You know, but then that also is like if you're there, then you're really not ready to be in a relationship anyway.
And it's also the society's expectations, right? I mean,
Yeah.
as a girl, like
You're supposed to be married with kids already.
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing?
Yeah, what are you doing, bro? Must be nice, bro. Like, well, then
There's
yeah,
something wrong
yeah.
with you. You've never
Yo,
been
you see that thing? It's ticking. It really does work, though. He didn't know that clock worked, but that clock does work. Yes. I found that out yesterday.
Yeah, but like that's what you're told. So like,
Yeah.
I didn't wait 32 years to find.
You're 14. You ain't gonna be no man. Nothing without no man.
Yeah.
And just like as men, it's if you can't provide, like you have no business being with somebody. You know, it's the same thing, just a different topic. And it can, like, I think I went through like a death of that, of like I have the peace in myself to know that like if I'm meant to have kids, like I'll have kids. I'm okay either way.
Yeah.
So like I don't feel that pressure on myself. I feel like a lot of girls don't get that. That I don't feel like, oh, I have to get married and I have to have kids and I have to, like, I don't. It will happen as it's. I would be unhappy if I had kids in an unhealthy relationship just because I felt like I needed to have kids, rather than not have kids, not get married, and be on my path, however that looks. Because if I pass on the shit that I have to my kids, that guilt and that shame and that will eat at me for the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's more important than me. That value system.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that when you're younger, you define it very like, that like, oh, I have to have kids by this age. It has to be in this career. I have to be by this. And it's like, I look at not just what I grew up in, but everybody's relationship. And I'm like, I would much rather like not have kids than be in an unhealthy one. Or I would much rather not get married than be married to somebody that like, yeah, exactly. Or not even hate, that is just like, okay, or whatever. Yeah, exactly. But I also feel like you're not ready to be there until you accept that like, I'll be okay on my own because I got my own back, you know. But like you said, it's that like, it's the biggest change that you have. It feels like the least amount of control over, because it's really like a universe thing of that, like you're supposed to be with this person at this time. And
but do you believe in the one?
do I believe in the one? Not necessarily.
We all have 3 great ones, as Sonny said.
It's so true.
You don't unlock the door.
I think in a way, I believe in that, but I think that it's not necessarily what people think. And I say that because I think that most people think that like it's just like this one person and they get you. But I think it's just like a meeting, like you said, it's like the divine timing of that aspect that you have no control over, and the fact of like it's the perfect balance of like I'm willing to work on these things, or I'm willing to communicate, and like I feel like I just saw it as like, oh, I'm gonna like one day meet this person and then like everything in my life will make sense. And I feel like once you let go of that, it at least puts you on a better path to like, because like I wouldn't, yeah, and exactly, and I wouldn't want to be with somebody who is going to put all their faith in me to make them completely happy with all the other stuff to the side. You know, it's supposed to be like a companion. Like you and I talk about teamwork all the time, like that. Like you're supposed to be a team. It's not supposed to be this thing that's like you go. I don't know, but it just. I just think that the stereotype of it is a little twisted, and I feel like it's hard to see that because like you're not in it until you're in it, of like knowing the person that you're going to be with for the rest of your life, like, and you're kind of always figuring that out, whether it's the first date or you're 5 years in. Sometimes I don't know, 30 years in, yeah, exactly, yeah.
Do you believe in that?
Huh?
Do you believe in the one?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Like
I
there's
think
one person out there for you and you have to find them?
No, I think I think what I have is something that we were both at the right place at the right time, and it now we coexist together and like can figure out ways to make our lives mold together, but it doesn't change the trajectory of either one of us. You know what I mean? Like I still want to see her do everything she wants to do with her businesses and stuff. Like I'd still like to accomplish the shit that I want to accomplish, but together would be nice. You know,
So help each other get there.
yeah, exactly.
You know, instead of like make it like somebody like a ball and chain in your back.
Yeah.
With somebody that propels you forward.
Yeah, I think it looks different to everybody, but I think everybody thinks it looks the same.
Yeah.
And a lot of people spend a lot of time being like, "Oh, we have so much in common." It's just like, no, you kind of need the yin and yang a little bit. And I feel like, to be quite honest, I'm just learning that. You know,
Like for a while when I first moved here, and not that I ever did it, but I was listening to Aubrey Marcus for a lot, and he always talks about like open relationships and all. And I did a lot of reading of just like different how people live differently. That just this monogamous way is not the only way for people. And some people thrive better in an open relationship or whatever dynamic looks to them. Like it's not gonna look. And just because somebody does it differently doesn't mean that's wrong or right. Or just because you do it, what works for you doesn't mean like, oh, you're a pussy, you can only do monogamy. You know what I mean? Like that's not true either. But maybe that's not for you. And maybe you need to explore something else. Or maybe that's exactly what's for you. And you have to find the person who will meet you exactly where they meet you. And giving yourself the freedom to kind of like decide and explore and not just be like, oh, I have to be in the white dress and get married.
I have this set idea of what this person is going to be like, and and yeah, I feel like it's a hard thing to talk about because it's just like, if we named this episode "How to Find Your Soulmate," mad people would watch it, but they'd be fucking disappointed by the answers because we don't have them. Like, should we call it that? What do you think? No. How to Find Your Soulmate.
Actually, you can, and it's yourself.
Yeah.
Right? Like that could be.
Yeah.
They'd be disappointed by that.
That's a good point.
It's right in front of you.
How do you think? Like, there's probably a lot of people out there listening who kind of put that faith into somebody else. What would you say is the first step that you can start on your journey to start? Whether you're in maybe a relationship that you're not that happy in, or you're trying to improve it. How, like, people always talk about like building yourself up, like, and that's the best thing that you can do in the relationship.
Yeah. I think giving yourself exactly what you're seeking from the other person. Like if you're seeking time and attention and like energy, and that's why I sat in front of a mirror, because like I was seeking that from my partner and I wasn't getting it. Like it was always so elusive. Like there was something else to be done. There was something else more important. And I was like, wait, but that's like also how I'm treating myself. Like I'm also feeling like I have to grasp at something else, and like sitting down with me is like the last thing that gets done and like the shortest amount of time. So like, can I give myself everything that I'm wanting from this other person? Because then you're not wanting it from them and they kind of have no use. Then they're only there because you want them there, not because you need them there. So you take that power of them giving you your happiness or you take that power away from them because it's really you. At the end of the day, you have to sit with yourself. And one day, then you can kind of see that like, oh, somebody will give me this because I can take the time to give myself this.
Yeah.
Somebody else will value this too. That's what helped me get to this point of like 3 years in, kind of like banging my head against a wall of like, I've asked, I've communicated, I've tried, I've cried, I've yelled, I've screamed. Like I've tried calmly saying something. I've tried like saying it with so much emotion, like I've been begging almost. Yeah. And it's like, well, what do I want? And give it to myself and like sit in front of the mirror and sit with myself and love myself instead of wanting his to do it for me, to like take everything away. I feel like sometimes we don't even realize that we're giving that power to somebody else until you like actually sit with how you're feeling about it. And stop expecting them to change your life. Like that's you. Whether it's changing them or just changing yourself. And maybe you changing that changes your whole dynamic in your relationship. It could. And maybe it makes it that this is no longer serving you. And there's your answer. Then it was in you the whole time.
Yeah. I feel like you could apply loving yourself to a solution for anything.
Everything.
Right?
I think that's people's biggest struggle is like how we feel and believe about ourselves. And that's why every self-love sanctuary, that's why everything that I do, like that's at the basis of it. Because it's such a simple thing and it's so cliche. And I feel like all of these cliches, as we get older, we realize that it's like, oh, they were actually right. You know, it's like those songs that you start listening to the lyrics and you're like, wow, they like knew, like that's really accurate. And I've been listening, saying these words for 15 years. And now it's finally landing of like, I feel this is relatable. And I just feel like as simple as it is, that's the basis of everything. Like focus on you. No one else has the answers. No one else has the power. It's you.
Yeah, I feel like that's a good place for us to wrap this up.
Yeah, I think
We've been going for a while. Yeah, this was in depth.
So we should ask the question though.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So-
Well, that's what.
So this is gonna be, this is something that we just started doing. Well, listen, you're only the third guest to get it, but when I was reading Think and Grow Rich, there's a point in the book where they're talking about when you're trying to change and get better, you have to create a council for yourself, or like a round table of people that don't necessarily have to be real. It can be like people you
Think
look
as
up
outside
to,
of the box as you want.
mythical, whatever you want, but people that just give us like, what are 4 people that like you would turn to for advice or guidance that you would use as your counsel?
Wow.
Oh yeah. I guess eventually, as it goes on, people will know that we'll ask this question. But an episode hasn't come out yet where we've asked this
I
question.
was gonna say I haven't seen that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're the,
Poor people.
And yeah.
I guess Gary Vee would be one. He would be.
All right. See, there we go.
I
Solid.
love that.
That's a good one. Yeah, that is a good one.
Yeah. I guess it would be like the people like or the lot guys. I'm sorry.
It's okay. That's meant to be a question like this.
yeah. We're not going to edit out.
This is also how we're going to test people down the road. Be like, oh, I watched a bunch of your episodes. Oh, well, how'd you not know this question was coming? How'd you not know this question?
If you make it to the end, say pineapples.
Pineapples.
I don't know, man. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's okay.
You don't got. Just give us one more person. One more person. I believe in you.
Gary, you got to go. Yeah, it can't
Yeah.
just be Gary Vee
can't
squeaky
just be-
voice in
You
your
would never
ear the whole
sleep.
time.
You would never sleep.
She
Her name's Christine House.
learned she
Perfect.
a lot of self-love stuff.
Fuck yeah.
There's somebody new that I'm listening to, Amanda Bickham, but she's very I don't really talk publicly about the stuff that I listen to of hers just because it's new for me.
Okay.
So her and let's say Ram Dass.
Ram Dass, that's a good one.
See?
Okay.
Once
Wayne
you took,
Dy- Wayne
once you
Dyer's
took the
in mine,
pressure off
so-
yourself,
Yeah.
once you took a second to be like,
That was good.
yeah, like, yeah, mhm.
Yeah, I love all his stuff. Yeah.
He's great. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
All
I
right.
just say my mom, but I'm like, I don't think so. In a bad way, but you want an expansive counsel and not that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's kind of the point of the question.
Yeah.
Is to like what one person would give you, the other person might give you, like both sides of that, you know?
And then if you think about it, then she could also be, it wouldn't just because.
Why don't you just make your mom the 5th? Like, yeah. There we go. I got 5.
Evolution.
Yeah, she knows you better than anyone.
Yeah, that's somebody that's very important to give that reflection. So I think the world's
She would know what was important to you.
yeah, and like seeing how I struggled and how I grew and how I got stuck, all of that.
Absolutely.
So I asked Will for 12 people. He gave us 5. I asked Joey for 5 people. He gave us 3. I asked Raven for 4. She gave us 5.
12 is not.
12 was what they did in a book.
Yeah.
So we were trying to figure out a way to narrow it down.
I
So I think 5, 3 or 4.
I think maybe 3 might be on the spot. I don't know.
I think like.
I don't know. Yeah, I think. Yeah, give us 3 to 5 people. Yeah.
Yes.
Maybe you could put this on your questionnaire so that people have a little.
Nah, that's the fun of this. That's the fun of this.
That's the point of it.
We want to get you at the end.
When we're gonna do an episode that like we're gonna say what ours are.
What your guys?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's unfair. You guys have had so much time to think about it.
Yeah, but that's why we have the podcast. Yeah. You can surprise people all you want. Yours.
Sleep. That I'm making. Hey, I'm just thinking the better person.
Yeah, exactly.
It's probably good for your mental health, dude.
Yeah, no, I mean,
Like,
yeah. Well, I think, like, because I'm kind of like building mine, sort of,
Right.
and it's like, but it kind of is like, oh, like, what I think about for advice can be more than just myself. And then like you can kind of like look at things objectively if you feel like somebody else would react differently. And then that gives you more space to reverse that around on yourself and be like, let me be objective about what I'm doing versus being like this, letting that negative narrative get in. Yeah.
All right. So you want to just one time for the camera, just run us through all of the places to find you and listen to you.
Yeah.
So on Instagram, pretty much everything's.
We'll link all your stuff, but yeah.
My podcast is The Self-Love Sanctuary. That's on Spotify and Apple. And then on YouTube, Rayvin Rey, you can get some of those podcasts on there as well.
Don't forget about where to get our journals.
What's your website? Definitely say that.
www.ravenray.com.
Okay.
And the journals are also on Amazon.
Okay.
That's where I got one. Where I got them, yeah.
Did you just type in Rayvin Rey on Amazon?
Well, the link is on here.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the link takes you to searching Rayvin Rey on Amazon. Yeah.
Oh,
So kind of, yeah. Yeah, in a way. She made me get there. We get there. Yeah, well. Yeah, it's how to be here. Thank you so much for doing this.
This was great.
This was
thank you.
fantastic. We haven't checked the cameras yet. This might be our longest episode ever.
Nah, the Brian one.
Brian's episode
definitely
was 2.5
close.
hours.
This is definitely close.
I don't know how long. I've lost. This is also the first episode in. Well, I guess we did one yesterday, but like this is the first episode we done with a guest where I didn't have to get up and stop the camera and restart the camera recording.
Oh, because you had enough.
Yeah.
So this was like the first time that
I'm gonna say an hour and 47 minutes.
That's all you think?
Yeah, I think
I'm
we
pretty
went
good
over
with
2 hours.
this.
I think we went over 2 hours.
You think we went over two?
I think so.
I think so too.
Okay.
All right, this has been Rayvin Rey. Thank you guys for listening. Anything else? Yeah.
Oh, good.
All right. Thank you again. Yeah. There you go.
Oh,
Oh well, the camera died.
my camera.
Oh wait. What? Maybe there is a limit on this.
My camera died too. My phone was.
Look at
completely
mine.
dead.
See mine.
How is my phone dead, dude? I fucking. Oh, because we were.